Hello, this is Shmuel Zeiler from Raz-Lee Security. Today, our webinar will be about the firewall. The firewall is an end-to-end network access security product for the IBM I. Just a few words about Raz-Lee. Raz-Lee was founded on year 1983, long ago. Since then and until today, we are focused only on the IBM I with all its names. We have offices in several countries and have stopped counting number of licenses and countries when we got to a reasonable number, and IBM started playing and customer playing with consolidation of logical partitions and so on. So we stopped counting it. We are naturally IBM partners, and we also partner with many other companies. I'll mention those which we are partnering and collaborating with in the technical aspect. I'll mention McAfee and ArcSight and the IBM QRadar. These are products, some of them, and so on, but the company stands behind them. And what I can tell you is that when we speak about Imperva, then Imperva, when you as OEM'd some of our products, so when you go and buy Imperva SecureSphere agent for the IBM I, then you buy actually iSecurity in a different part. We provide, as far as we can understand and check, and this is of course not objective, the widest range of security solution. But more than that, we provide the highest technology in this marketplace, and we do provide some unique products, unique because there is no competition to them. Among these, I can count anti-ransomware, a product which came just recently. The anti-ransomware ransomware is today the #1 threat in cyber. So instead of us just using the word cyber and cyber security, it's better that we shall have a real security for that. And the major security issue is ransomware. So we have a solution for the IBM I. We have products like a change tracker, which automatically does track all the changes in production library. I mean, when objects are added, deleted, removed, renamed, all that. We have all the capabilities. We have a product named Capture, which will automatically take pictures of every 5250 screen that is being observed, or its emulation screen that is being observed, and allow you to do a playback later. This is something like a surveillance camera for the 5250 and its emulations. This is our offering of products. As you can see, it's quite wide, and I'm always reminding myself not to start speaking a few words about each of them because it will take all the time. So I'll just mention where we are. Firewall is one line here, and it is part of the protection suite which we provide for this computer. Our agenda for today is quite wide. I'll try to make it fit to the time plan, but I'm not sure. Well, we shall speak about what is firewall and it's the way that it is being designed and the algorithms which make it so efficient. We shall show you a demonstration both in GUI and in 5250 green screen emulation, and hopefully let's start. So what is the need for firewall? We all knew and heard that the IBM I is the most secure system. Yes, this was true at the days of 5250. When I mention 5250, I mean either terminals or emulations for 5250. So at those days, it was simple. On the terminal or the PC running the emulation, we had a menu. The menu led us only to activate those options which we are allowed to. This was excellent. Then IBM decided to add the TCP/IP to the 5250 menu-based system. Well, the minute that you add something, new risk appears. And these are the new risks. Things like ODBC, which is the way to access data on a remote system, appeared. These data, using this ODBC, people or computers can access the database, the data items in the database of the IBM I. FTP provides another risk. It enables the user to take a full file and bring it to the PC, or up or download a file into the IBM I. Well, there are plenty of types of services which the IBM I is now providing. Actually, they range to about if we count it by servers, I would say let's count them on exit points, the way that we protect them. So we reach about something between near 50, let's say, which is quite a number. So the minute the environment has changed, we found ourselves unprotected. IBM in its operating system enabled the security of the TCP/IP servers, but did not provide it. It means that nothing was there, just the capability. Actually, there was not even a log for the activities. So no one knew what is going on. ODBC, FTP, and many other things have become more and more popular. And today, so many people are aware of them and use them. It's not like the first days when people hardly heard about these terms. So a new security feature must be added, and this is the firewall. The firewall stands between all these requesters and the IBM I. While the IBM I provides by itself, and this is always excellent, the native object security and native user profile security, which then we need another layer standing here, which will help us protect all the other activities. Some of us make a mistake, and we think that it is enough to have the external organizational firewall. Well, it's not that true, and I'll explain why. Because the organizational firewall actually is around the organization. So all the local terminals and local users, they are within this area, what we call the organization. So the firewall is not between them and the valuable resource named IBM I. On the other hand, the FBI reports that 85% of all the risk, and sometimes it's 83, sometimes it's 84, sometimes it's even 86, doesn't matter, it's around 85% of all the risk comes from within the organization. And this means that only 15% of the risk is protected by the organizational firewall. Our firewall, the iSecurity firewall, is inside the IBM I. Okay, we rounded it from the outside, but the idea is that we are able, being in this place to protect all the 100% of requests that comes into the IBM I. Actually, the IBM firewall is with the assistance of the operator understanding the IP address, the user profile, the verb, file, library, commands, and every item that is needed to be secured. So we spoke about this, the numbers. Now, what is the threat? The threat is easy to understand, because if anyone can now come up and change the data using ODBC, people can transfer or take files into and out of the IBM I. That is frightening. People from the outside, they are able to run commands. They are able to install and run programs. They are able to do almost anything. And there is no real capability to block that activity or to log it. So we come with the firewall. Now the problem is that there are about 50 exit points to be secured. Such one exists. For example, I mentioned just the word FTP, but FTP is FTP when as a server, when the IBM is playing the role of the server, but FTP can be also the role of a client. Even from a green screen, somebody can type the command FTP and access all the rest of the world. We have a trivial FTP, and a part of the FTP itself is RxSec, which is the way to run command on a remote system. So all these are handled by exit points, and we protect them. The question is, how do we do the definitions for the security, which are entirely different from those of the operating system? Because those of object security, they speak about, a different world. A person who is working for a 5250 emulation, he cannot take an entire file. He can see a screen. This is not stealing an entire file. He cannot download an entire file. So it's entirely different. So this is the way that we have designed our security. Instead of going and defining a start point, and that from that start point define all what that start point is able to do. Let's say that the start point is a user profile, and then a user profile can do FTP, and in FTP there are plenty of verbs, so for which each verb, like get or put, or if we speak about SQL, which is actually what it means ODBC, then it's insert, delete, select, and all that. So for each of them, which library we can access with it, and which object in which library, this is going to be very complex. So instead of doing this approach of a tree structure, we are doing a layered security structure. Now, the very first thing is that we protect all the exit points, and we can tell each exit point by itself whether that it should allow every access through it or reject every access, or the level of control. And the level of control means actually how deep are we going to go in this diagram. Basically, this is the idea. So we have a full control, and we can adjust it as per our needs. We have things which help us. One of them is FYI simulation mode. We are able to activate each exit point or the entire product in FYI mode. FYI means simulation. And then we play a game. We get the log as if the log expresses the result, whether to allow or reject a transaction, but in reality, everything is allowed. The second level in the layer security is isolated from all the rest. Each level is isolated. And then we have here the IP or SNA file names. So we are able to set up the ranges of IPs which are allowed to work with us, or that we are allowed to work with them. And we do that by providing IP addresses in either IPv4 or IPv6, and the subnet mask, or the way that in the IPv6 it's called the different, but let's use the term subnet mask to express the size of the family that we are working with. Then we go to the third level. In the third level, we are protecting the user per service. We are able to specify for each user or group profile or supplemental group profile, and yes, we protect even and consider the supplemental group profile if so desired, and the user groups, which is groups that are inside the firewall itself, by verb, IP, device name, and application. We are able actually to control everything in this level. All this was just, to filter it before. And now we are able to protect and adjust the exact activity per user. The fact that we work with group profile, supplemental group profile, and or groups which are created inside firewall gives us the flexibility as in the operating system. So if your organization is based on providing group profiles, several group profiles for each user in order to allow him to access different missions that he plays in the different roles in the organization, then you can continue doing this in the same way without any transferring of the definitions in the firewall itself. Then we go to the last level, which is the object level. And in the object level, IBM is also using a separation of the object level security from the user level. They also use layer security. But in the object in the way that IBM has designed the object level, each object must carry all the authorization, or at least the authorization list name, which will provide authorization. But this is quite cumbersome. So instead, we provide the ability to work with generic names. And as we work with all the data rights or object rights as in the operating system, then we have the full flexibility with the assistance of using generic names or asterisks. Usually, the idea when we speak about how firewall works, the idea is simple. A transaction arrives, then the exit point is calling the program which we put in. We are doing the check in levels, and at the end, we either agree to allow the transaction or to reject. And if we allow, then the transaction is performed. If it is rejected, then it will be rejected. In either cases, in most cases, people log both the allowed and the rejected transactions. Of course, there are some exceptions, such as logons. When we do a logon, we don't have an object, and before the logon, we don't even know who is the user who signed on, etc. But we have all the ability to control the various types of logons, such as a telnet itself before the telnet is activation of the emulation, and even the start of the FTP or the password. All that are part of the product. Well, as I said and I showed, the firewall stands between, inside the line of the transaction, that the transaction has to be checked, confirmed, and then allowed to run. This means that there is a dedicated time in which the transaction is delayed until it will be processed. So the lower, the shortest this will be, then the most benefit we shall have from firewall without any problem. In order to do this, we use some unique algorithms to work with it. The first algorithm that we use is called best fit. Now, best fit is the idea that we speak normally in this way. We say, okay, no one is allowed to get into this building except those who carry something, or except those whose their name is something. In such a way, we use generic name, and in the very first rule will be no one is allowed to enter the building. It means asterisk all cannot enter. And then all those which, let's say, start with ABC or in a specific group, they are allowed. I'll mention that generic name or group and allow them to work to get in. This way, we don't have to order the entries. The rules are not ordered. They are being picked automatically. The most significant one is taken when it is needed, and actually it takes us exactly 1 IO to find out the best solution. How we do that? It's not important, but think about the alternative. The alternative is to throw into the system of which secures your network activity all the rules, and those has to be scanned until a specific rule is found to be true. This means many IOs, many IO operations, and with our solution we use only 1 IO operation per layer in order to find the most specific rule and work accordingly. Besides, we managed also to take a synchronous activity, something which stands between the request and the process of the request, and cut it to 2 parts. One part, pass streaming, of course, in between the request and the process, but the other, we can do it asynchronously. And this is exactly what we have done. So, and this is why the time that we delay the activity is the shortest, because some parts of all the checks, logging and all that is done asynchronously, not within that job. Well, but this is not the end, because the most significant thing that frightens people is the ODBC. ODBC is actually activated by SQL statement. But in the past, SQL had to be processed by the vendor who provides the security solution, which means to parse an SQL statement. To parse an SQL statement is something which might take a lot of resources and is tending to be inaccurate by nature, because we have to think in the way that the IBM has thought, and we all have to understand that while we write short SQL statement, normally the products which run, they sometimes issue very, very long SQL statements. Some of them are longer than 1 megabyte. And in order to process this, it takes quite a while. And instead, IBM came out with their new exit point, DB Open, it is called. And DB Open is a partial, and remember, it's a partial replacement of the SQL exit point. It's not a full one. And with the DB Open coming in place, we immediately made use of it. And unlike some of our competitors, and we use it. The idea in DB Open is that instead of us parsing and checking all the files that appear in the SQL statement, whether they are allowed for the user or not, then and then passing it to the IBM operating system, which will parse again the SQL statement and process it. Instead, we are waiting for the IBM I to parse the SQL statement, provide us just the list of files, and then we can check whether the user is allowed to access those files in the manner that they are being accessed in the SQL statement. So the DB Open is a much better solution. We have even managed to convince IBM to provide another level of processing impact to the DB Open. We are able to tell the operating system to call the DB Open only for files which we have marked in advance that we have any interest to protect. If these are files which are useless, who cares about them? Why waste my time on them? Some of the firewall characteristics, just to cover up and have it, to wrap it together. The scope. We control all possible exit points. We provide user level and object level. We control both external and internal threats. We control even incoming and outgoing requests. The technology which we provide is the top one in the marketplace in this area. And this is called layered architecture. And our layered architecture just copies the layered architecture of the operating system, which does not start with each user telling which access he can do to which object, but does it separately. First, you define the users and you define their capabilities. Then you go to the object and define which users can access them. Our overhead is therefore the minimum that one can think of. The product provides a lot of user-friendly wizards to help you define the rules. The way that we work with rules is derivated from the layered security, because for us it's easy to create rules based on the information that we have gathered. So we activate the product in FYI mode, which is simulation mode. We collect using the wizard the information, and the wizard actually allows us to point and click on the screen and create rules automatically from there. We shall show it in a short while. So this is what we have. We have the ability also we understand that this is an ongoing project. Not in the first time we shall be able to create the full protection. We always will try to see if there are more things which we can go and perhaps provide a deeper and more secured environment for our organization. And this is why we provide the ability to test the firewall rules in simulation mode and simply modify our files and check how the log would have been looked like if the new rules would have been in place at the time that it was created. As usual, we provide a full reporting, analysis, and business intelligence capabilities with the product. And the product is naturally 100% GUI and 100% 5250 grade emulation, as usual. So we mentioned already the DB Open. We provide a ability to protect also some unknown services which can run on the IBM, unusual, let's call them, such as SSH. So with SSH, we provide the ability to protect it. We have the ability to react to violations in real time by sending messages to the operator and the user who has done the violation, and sending in messages to the syslog and the SIEM and SNMP, and running CL script. Okay, sometimes we need the additional definition, but it's all working. And we have to remember again that we work with supplemental group profile and internal groups of users, and this makes a huge difference. I think that this is a good time for us to mention just one thing more. It's not easy to get and start running a product like Firewall, because most of us already have something in place. Maybe it is an in-house solution which somebody has built for itself to protect something or to add some additional features to the activity. Maybe it's a product of another company which they consider to get a better one. And the question is, how shall we test it if there is only a possibility to run a single protection software? And for that, we have the parallel processing, a feature which allows us to run our firewall in parallel with any other product or in-house solution, enabling us, the users, to decide which product take the domination. So in the beginning, we should just put in firewall, and then later we shall be able to move the decision to the firewall itself. And then the next step will be to stay on with the iSecurity firewall only. So this is a way for a smooth transition towards firewall. Actually, this trend of transition towards firewall has become to such a level that we had to create a product which will automatically convert the rules of some other products to our system, and this is already in place and running. There are several other related products to the firewall. One of them is Screen. The Screen is the logical timeout of a 5250 emulation screen. And I use the word logical because the operating system does provide this feature of disconnecting usually or ending jobs which were left unattended. And unattended screen is a huge risk, but our solution enables us to decide according to the device name or the username that is running on that screen, whether we really wish to take it down or not. And of course, in all places which run the automatic feature of the operating system, DSP01, the control screen which is inside the computer room, is the one which will immediately be disconnected. And of course, we have the ability to prevent this using the product screen. The product command takes into consideration that the IBM I is a command-driven system. Everything is created, manipulated, worked with using commands. And commands can arrive from a green screen or from a GUI, from should it be by FTP or as part of SQL and etc. It's all possible, but the command product can track and access and work with a command before it is being run, and regardless of the origin of that command, and control its parameters and decide whether to allow it to run as is, or after modification of some of the parameters, yes, this is available, or reject it. This is now the time to go to a short demonstration. We shall do the demonstration in both dialects, as in GUI and in green screen. Let's go live. This is the product. Okay. Now let's see first the exit points that we protect. These are the names of the exit points that we protect. We're starting from the ancient file transfer, but which is still available in the operating system, going to FTP and its RX possibilities, going to the SQL original and not original, going to the DB open exit point, which I elaborated about it just a few minutes ago, file servers, which are the sharing of disks between the IBM I and the open world, and so on. So there are plenty of exit points, and in this screen we can always come to anything and simply go and ask, okay, what is this? And we shall get a nice answer, what is being protected, etc. And we are able to specify the protection that we provide here, in which level we protect it, and so on. This is the way that we protect. This is done only once, and this is quite easy. When we speak about the DB open setting, DB open, as I told you, is a real invention or a real rescue for the performance problem and the accuracy problem of SQL. I know that some of our competitors simply decided to control just the first 512 or 256 characters of the SQL statement. But you know, with DB open, we don't consume any additional processing time and still have the ability to control it in full accuracy. But DB open is not enough, because some of the features of the SQL, such as create library or create file, they do not appear in DB open. So we have the possibility to mix the uses. We have a full possibility to mark which files we wish to pre-select for processing, and here is how to work with in the navigator. When we have all that, we can always go to the reporting. These are, by the way, the levels. So we have the basic security, we have the IP filtering, then we have the security of per user, and then we have something which I did not mention even, but he really deserves it. This is client application security, the idea of a specific user who is running two applications, and each application needs some files which usually the user should not have authority for. So, and this is quite normal, because we all use several applications from the same PC, same IP, by same user. But the ability to distinguish between the security needed per application is unique with this iSecurity firewall. And here is the protection per object in the way that it is being displayed. I will just show you a little bit of this in the GUI, so that you can see it and work with it for yourself. So this is the firewall. We are using Java. Our GUI is Java-based, written over Eclipse. So we start one of the systems. We go to firewall. we can take, for example, let's take the exit points, server settings, and we have the same thing, the same thing that we were seeing a minute ago on the green screen. So we have here the original file transfer function and the various FTP resources, as well as the DB open and so on. So this is the DB open, okay? And we have all that. It's absolutely identical, and the green screen and the user. So if we continue just to see a little bit how it is organized, so let's take the user security. You know, with Eclipse, we are able to open many items together and simply switch between them by clicking on the appropriate type. And we can even have those open in other systems on the same screen and simply use this. So with user security, we have here the ability to work with the user security, whether it's a system user or not, and many other things. And then let's take one of the user here and get into that user profile. User security, it can be a user profile. We can see the IPs that are allowed, this user is allowed to run with, the devices, IP devices that the user is allowed to work with. We are able to specify which servers the user is allowed, as well as which verb in each server he is allowed. And we can also enable switching, swapping or not, or just checking for an alternative user while some of the major important servers are being used. And in this way, alterate the security as it is being materialized on the flow without the user having to do anything. With iSecurity in place, we have the ability to work with the query generator. I didn't show you the query generator, but I can easily show you. So I can go into the queries and just a minute, and select firewall queries, and then I can see the firewall queries. And as I see the firewall queries, those of you who have already participated in any other webinar which we demonstrated, this feature, it's almost identical. We are able to go and first the product comes with tens of reports, if not hundreds of reports, which come in. And with these reports, we are able to get in and define the filter that they will be carrying for each field. And we have a wide range of tests to have for each field. We have the ability to check a field based on the trivial equal, not equal, but we can also use like and not like, and test and not test, and all these. This is just a possibility. We have the ability to sort the fields, as well as to provide an explanation that will run with the product and reach the auditor or the user who is receiving the information at the time that it is being sent to him. Data is always, the report generator is capable of sending the information as HTML or PDF or output file or Excel files to those who have to receive it. We believe that it's very nice to demonstrate in real time and live how we run the reports, but this is not the way that we work with. Usually, we set up some reports and we wish to get them daily usually via email, but we provide some other capabilities as well. And when we have all this, we would prefer to see just the exceptions, just the violations, and control them only, because otherwise we are going to sink in such an amount of data which is unreasonable. So we send the information by email, and even if sometimes we send several reports all together, and all that we hope is that their reports will be empty, because those are showing just the exceptions, and we don't want to have exceptions. So if we have no exceptions, then the subject of the mail is set to say no data in the reports. And this is all that we need in order to know we have passed a safe day. You can see here from this screen that we have some other products which I mentioned, like the screen here. I would like, instead of continuing with this, I would like to show you a bit of the business intelligence which we have. We call the business intelligence visualizer. We shall activate the visualizer for the firewall, and we shall take it and run it now on all the information that we have now. Now, the amount of information that have been scanned in order to show this graph is as the number that I'm pointing at here at the bottom. I hope that you already see this. It's 365,000 records that have been scanned, and it's an instantaneous response time. So for each day, I see here the number of activities that have been collected. I'm able to sort it up or down. I'm also able to select few days. Let's take 2 days here, and I press now the control, and 2 days from here. The minute I have selected something, a rule is being built here in the rule area, and I can go now and check the activity which was done during these 4 days by the user. So I see only those users which were active during these 4 days. So I can simply decide, oh, I'm going to work with this user. Let's see what I've done. The minute I click here, it is being marked on the list itself. So I will take this user and see and check which IPs he was using. And I get here the IPs he was using, and next to them, the number of times that this has occurred. I can, if I wish, to take this one, perhaps with another one, and go and check which libraries he was using. Oh, and then I can continue like this, or for example, take and find, we didn't find much information, so I will simply check which servers he was using. So I click on the servers now, and I get that he was using only file server. and file server is not listed in the list because of the definition which we set up. Okay, so this was just the explanation and the webinar about firewall. I can, for those of you who much prefer the green screen, where everything I did except for the graphics of the visualizer is available also through the green screen. One can, I didn't mention the wizards. These are the list of wizards which we have here, and we have the ability to reuse the wizard. Let's take this one, for example. We can collect some information, hopefully, which we have today, and it will tell us the statistical approach of the usage of IPs in the time frame that I've mentioned when I entered. So I know how many times each IP was used. I can, according to this set of coloring, know if there is a specific rule or not. And it's so easy. If I decide to modify a rule, all that I have to do is change it here to no and here to yes. I don't know what I'm doing, but I hope that I don't make too much harm. And I just press the enter key, and this line, the modification of this line, will disappear from here and appear as a rule in the product itself. So he tells me, hey, be aware, we are going to override the data. And I say, yes, I would like to write the rule, and I can even say, same answer to all the future questions in this session. And I press the enter. That entry has been removed and added to the system itself. This one will appear here in the IPv4 addresses. I think it was 170 or 172. Okay, this one, I think. So this one is a rule that was set by wizard. This is the way that we work. Actually, even from the business intelligence product, which I showed you, it's not this one, it's here. Even from here, I am able to build rules directly into the system itself. So this is a real change in the atmosphere of the IBM I. I was willing to show you the query generator. So this is the query generator, and you can see here some of the queries that we provide from here. It's so wide and we so capable, this query generator, that it's absolutely in place. And with this, we bring this demonstration and the webinar to the end. And I'll be glad to answer any question if anyone has. So simply chat the question and I'll try to answer them. Actually, the first one already has appeared. What happens if one secure both SQL and DB open? Okay, well, it is when we secure, we recommend to secure both DB open and SQL, but in the way that we define it, and I'll use this time the green screen to show how we work with it. We are able to say exactly what we wish to control. Excuse me. And as you can see, our setting is wise enough to say, hey, SQL will not check all the operation again, but instead it will check only those which do not pass through the DBO. Actually, we have also this screen in which in this screen we are able to define what exactly is the scope of operation that we wish to control. So, for example, if we wish to control only ODBC, then it's easy. Just click here, yes. If we want to specify that we wish to control in various ways, for example, to skip the native IO operation, but to log the start SQL system or pass the start SQL through the system with the ODBC or log other things, we have the full flexibility to do whatever we wish. Let's see the second question. Well, the question is, if we have the ability to assist you in creating the rule. Well, yes, but we do not record. I will tell you that you will find it that quite after a while that we assist you in creating the rule, especially in the first level, you will find that this is not that complex because of the wizards. So we shall help you to create the initial settings. We shall help you to go live with the product. We shall assist you to work in parallel and remove the parallelism with other products. We shall assist you all the way to the extent that you require it. Actually, we even do it as a kind of a service to assist you. Next question. Just a minute, let me understand this. Yes, the question is, and now I understand what is the meaning of. Yes, the question is regarding to the parallel system. The parallel system, the question is if we really work with two systems. Well, let me show you the parallel system because everything is here in this, and we are able to show you, and this is the parallel system. So with the parallel system, we are able to simply decide who will give the decision. The two systems will run, but only the decision of one of them will be passed to the operating system. This is the parallel system, and this is how we can work with it, and it works fine. It works fine. And the next question I see here is whether we shall always be secured. Yes, you always are secured. You just may decide whether you are secured by the previous system or by firewall. So I would recommend that first you continue working with your existing system, switch on, provide all the definition to the firewall, check the reports at the end and decide if they are good enough, showing all the results, and then and only then you are able to transfer the control from the other system to the firewall. Thank you for joining this webinar. I hope you have enjoyed. You are all, thank you for the time that you spend with us. Should you have any further question, you know how to reach us. It's so easy. Just drop us a mail or call us and we shall provide you. Thank you from me, Shmuel Zeiler, and all the company, Raz-Lee Security. Have a nice day.